Chapter 6. The Sale of a Birthright. Now Esau, when he grew up, did not care for his birthright or the blessing which God had promised. But Jacob, who was a wise man, wished greatly to have the birthright which would come from Esau when his father died. Once when Esau came home, hungry and tired from hunting in the fields, he saw that Jacob had a bowl of something that he had just cooked for dinner. And Esau said, "Give me some of that red stuff in the dish." "You will not give me some? I am hungry." And Jacob answered, "I will give it to you, if you will first of all sell me your birthright." And Esau said, "What is the use of a birthright to me now, when I am almost starving to death? You can have my birthright if you will give me something to eat." Then Esau made Jacob a solemn promise to give to Jacob his birthright, all for a bowl of food. It was not right for Jacob to deal so selfishly with his brother, but it was very wrong in Esau to care so little about his birthright and God's blessing. Sometime after this, when Esau was 40 years old, he married 2 wives. Though this would be very wicked in our times, it was not supposed to be wrong then. For even good men had more than 1 wife. But Esau's 2 wives were women from the people of Canaan, who worshipped idols, and not the true God. And they taught their children also to pray to idols, so that those who came from Esau, the people who were his descendants, lost all knowledge of God, and became very wicked. But this was long after that time. Isaac and Rebekah were very sorry to have their son Esau marry women who prayed to idols and not to God. But still, Isaac loved his active son Esau more than his quiet son Jacob. But Rebekah loved Jacob more than Esau. Isaac became at last very old and feeble, and he was so blind that he could scarcely see anything. One day he said to Esau, "My son, I am very old, and I do not know how soon I must die. But before I die, I wish to give you, as my older son, God's blessing upon you, and your children, and your descendants. Go out into the fields, and with your bow and arrows, shoot some animal that is good for food, and make for me a dish of cooked meat such as you know I love. And after I have eaten it, I will give you the blessing." Now Esau ought to have told his father that the blessing did not belong to him, for he had sold it to his brother Jacob. But he did not tell his father. He went out into the fields hunting to find the kind of meat which his father liked the most. Now Rebekah was listening and heard all that Isaac had said to Esau. She knew that it would be better for Jacob to have the blessing than for Esau, and she loved Jacob more than Esau. So she called to Jacob and told him what Isaac had said to Esau. And she said, "Now, my son, do what I tell you, and you will get the blessing instead of your brother. Go to the flocks and bring me 2 little kids from the goats, and I will cook them just like the meat Esau cooks for your father. And you will bring it to your father, and he will think that you are Esau, and will give you the blessing, and it really belongs to you." But Jacob said, "You know that Esau and I are not alike. His neck and arms are covered with hairs, while mine are smooth. My father will feel of me, and he will find that I am not Esau, and then instead of giving me a blessing, I am afraid that he will curse me." But Rebekah answered her son, "Never mind. You do as I have told you, and I will take care of you. If any harm comes, it will come to me. So do not be afraid, but go bring the meat." Then Jacob went and brought a pair of little kids from the flocks, and from them his mother made a dish of food, so that it would be to the taste, just as Isaac liked it. Then Rebekah found some of Esau's clothes and dressed Jacob in them, and she placed on his neck and hands some of the skins of the kids, so that his neck and hands would feel rough and hairy to the touch. Then Jacob came into his father's tent, bringing dinner and speaking as much like Esau as he could, and said, "Who are you, my son?" And Jacob answered, "I am Esau, your oldest son. I have done as you bade me. Now sit up and eat the dinner that I have made, and then give me your blessing as you promised me." And Isaac said, How is it you found it so quickly?" Jacob answered, "Because the Lord, your God, showed me where to go and gave me good success." Isaac did not feel certain that it was his son Esau, and he said, "Come near and let me feel you, so that I may know that you really are my son Esau." And Jacob went up close to Isaac's bed, and Isaac felt his face and his neck and his hands. And he said, "The voice sounds like Jacob, but the hands are hands of Esau. Are you really my son Esau?" And Jacob told a lie to his father and said, "I am." Then the old man ate the food that Jacob had brought to him, and he kissed Jacob, believing him to be Esau. And he gave him the blessing, saying to him, "May God give you the dew of heaven, and the richness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. May nations bow down to you, and peoples become your servants. May you be the master over your brother, and may your family and descendants that shall come from you rule over his family and his descendants. Blessed be those that bless you, and cursed be those that curse you." Just as soon as Jacob had received the blessing, he rose up and hastened away. He had scarcely gone out when Esau came in from hunting with a dish of food that he had cooked, and he said, "Let my father sit up and eat the food that I have brought, and give me the blessing." And Isaac said, "Why, who are you?" Esau answered, "I am your son, your oldest son Esau." And Isaac trembled and said, "Who then is the one that came in and brought me food? And I have eaten this food and have blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed." When Esau heard this, he knew that he had been cheated, and he cried aloud with a bitter cry, "Oh, my father, my brother has taken away my blessing, just as he took away my birthright. But cannot you give me another blessing too? Have you given everything to my brother?" And Isaac told him all that he had said to Jacob, and making him the ruler over his brother. But Esau begged for another blessing, and Isaac said, "My son, your dwelling shall be of riches of the earth and the dew of heaven. You shall live by your sword, and your descendants shall serve his descendants. But in time to come they shall break loose, and shall shake off the yoke of your brother's rule, and shall be free." All this came to pass many years afterward. The people who came from Esau lived in a land called Edom, on the south of the land of Israel, where Jacob's descendants lived. And after a time the Israelites became rulers over the Edomites, and later still the Edomites made themselves free from the Israelites. But all this took place hundreds of years afterwards. It was better that Jacob's descendants, those who came after him, should have the blessing than of Esau's people should have it. For Jacob's people worshiped God, and Esau's people walked in the way of the idols and became wicked.